Richland School District 2 has been named the K-12DIVE 2021 School District of the Year. Roger Riddell, the editor of K-12DIVE, explains what K-12DIVE is and how it selects the School District of the Year.
So K-12DIVE is a business news publication for principals and superintendents focused on providing insight and analysis of the news and trends that impact school and district operations. K-12DIVE has been around since early 2012. So this is the 10th year that the publication has existed. And the initial idea that, we still kind of strive for today is to not just give school administrators and district administrators the news that's impacting them, but to provide analysis and context for why that news is going to impact the way that they do their job and how they can prepare for those impacts and what the best practices are to navigate, changes in policy, trends in like innovation and ed tech, new school models, anything that's going to change the way that they do their job from day to day. Each year, we recognize a superintendent, principal, and a district of the year in our annual DIVE Awards package. A lot of that process basically comes from the coverage that we do throughout the year. So as we're writing articles and digging into different stories that we've heard about, everyone on the team will kind of make notes of, who's really standing out to us throughout the year. And we'll revisit that later on. We'll cross-reference that with what we hear from, principals and superintendents from different schools and districts across the country as far as who they think is standing out. Sometimes we'll reach out to some sources that we have at the principal associations and the superintendent associations, groups like that. And then we'll kind of around midway through the year meet and start kind of narrowing down the list of who we want to consider when we get closer into the fall. So it's really a lot of it is just, who we've heard about and who really stood out to us as we were covering stories throughout the year. There's not really a sort of process where, anyone like applies for it or gets nominated by anyone outside of K-12DIVE, at least not formally. The closest to any sort of nomination, if you wanted to call it that, would be from, other principals or superintendents, just sort of singing the praise of their peers in other schools and districts.
When one considers other school districts, according to U.S. News and World Report, in 2020, South Carolina ranked 44th in education out of the 50 states. So how could a school district in a state ranked 44th nationally be selected as the school district of the year?
It's something that I've always tried to kind of spotlight is that just because a state is ranked a certain way doesn't mean that there aren't standout districts and schools within that state. One of the things that really jumped out at us was Superintendent Baron Davis's Premier 100 initiative, which is focused on recruiting and retaining male educators of color. And that, I think, is really important because in a lot of instances, especially men of color in education, they tend to get funneled into these positions where they're more of like a disciplinarian, as opposed to in a sort of mentorship role or role model type of situation. So I think the Premier 100 stands out on that front. The other thing that we really liked a lot was Dr. Davis's commitment to engaging the community and ensuring that they understand the importance of these programs and initiatives, as well as bond measures and referendums that have been successfully passed. Even if a parent doesn't agree with Dr. Davis, you ultimately see, wow, we have to move in this direction because if we don't, it's going to be detrimental to kids in 2 or 3 years. So it's the transparency and the willingness to just put these things out there and make sure that the community fully understands the need for them on the part of Dr. Davis and the rest of the administration in the district really stood out because I think it says a lot about the work that a district is doing when the community is, time and again willing to back bond measures and referendums and things like that too. A lot of districts have approached these things in different ways, but I think that it was in Richland 2's case, the combination of all of them and the amount of attention and dedication on behalf of everyone that we talked to in the district, from parents to teachers to principals to Dr. Davis himself, just the amount of engagement with the community on those things as well, that the community was invested in these things, really stood out to us. Because in some cases, you'll find a district that's working on maybe, several of these things, but they're further along on one than they are on the other, because it's really hard to kind of do all these things in tandem and do them really well all at the same time. And from what we could see, Richland 2 has really found the right balance when it comes to making sure that all of these initiatives and programs get the right amount of attention and have an equal amount of focus, because they all ultimately feed into each other.
Richland School District 2 is honored to be named the K-12DIVE 2021 School District of the Year. To K-12DIVE, we extend a heartfelt thank you. In future stories, we will dive into some of the attributes that made K-12DIVE take a closer look at our school district as we celebrate Richland School District 2, the K-12DIVE 2021 School District of the Year.